Okay,
Megan, I'll need the screen sharing.
yes. Oh, Lisa, it's not giving me the up button. Do you have it? Sometimes it takes a second.
Try it now. Did it work?
Yep.
Great.
So hi, everyone that's here. We have Paul Mitchell and Kimmy Shigatani. Am I close? From Redistricting Partners, and they're going to work us through how to use the mapping tool and then answer any general questions you have. So you can raise your hand at the end of his presentation. I've also opened the chat feature so that we can look at the questions that you may have as he goes through everything. So with that, I will turn it over to Paul.
Thank you very much. And can you see the mapping tool up on the screen? Let me do that again. Can you see the mapping tool up on the screen?
Yes.
Great. Well, first off, thank you very much for coming to this. If you're here live, appreciate you being here. If you're watching this video in the future, I hope that you'll learn more about the tools that are being provided from the city of Burlingame in order to allow you to draw a community of interest or to draw potential district lines as the city makes a conversion from at-large election system to districts. So if we go to the mapping tool from the website, the first thing you'll see is that ability to log in. If you don't have a login, it's very easy to create a new user. And then from that to go ahead and register with your name and email address and then start a new account. At that point, it'll bring you to this window that'll allow you to select a plan that you want to open. And you can just start with that My Burlingame that will allow you to get in. When you're in the mapping tool, you'll see instantly what you probably recognize is the city of Burlingame with some recognizable streets, the exterior boundaries of the city, and even some of the local schools. It might be confusing when you first come to it. If you come here the first time, you might see this big help menu on the side. If that's there, just go ahead and close it. And that'll allow you to go forward without having to have that in the way, taking up so much space on your screen. When you go to it, you'll see there's these 4 menus on the sides, and they can easily be closed by this 3 lines. It's called a hamburger menu that allows you to open or close those tools. These 4 tools are the tools that you'll utilize in the map drawing for your community of interest or for districts. If I go into this menu, this is where you would allow you to create a new district or allow you to create with different tools. Then if you go to this tool, this allows you to see your changes. This allows you to see the population of each district. And this allows you to see different layers. And I'm going to go ahead and first off, start by removing the one kind of test thing I had already started to create. But I'll go ahead and recreate it after we get a chance to play with this. Let's give that a second to reset, and then we'll come right back to it. All right. So this tool here will allow you to create the district, and I'm going to show you how the tool works so that you get a chance to really dive into that. But first, I'm going to show that you have the option here to show layers. And you also have the option to increase the labels if you're having trouble reading, say, like street names or something like that. If I go here to the layers, I can see some interesting things that I can go ahead and add to the map if it's hard for me to see something, and something that I can remove, like if I wanted to remove the schools. If I go over here to the target tool, think of this as kind of your pen. You're selecting what you want to draw. You want to draw a new district, and what you want to draw it from. You want to draw it from all the unassigned areas or the whole city as it exists. Then you can choose that you're going to draw by census block, and you have these 3 tools for selecting. If I go ahead and zoom in a little bit, I can see that if I use the pointer and click, it'll allow me to click on each little census block. If I use the circle tool, it'll allow me to draw a circle of census blocks. And if I use this tool, it's called a polygon tool. It'll allow you to draw an area. There's any kind of abstract shape and select any census block that touches those areas that you just selected. And so let's say that I just want to provide my community of interest. I'll go ahead and cancel that. And let's say my community of interest is residents around this Mills Canyon Park, and my kids go to Franklin Elementary. So I want to go ahead and draw a community of interest. I could use that tool to go draw a community of interest over here. And once I have that and know how I want to do it, I can go ahead and save it, name it. I'll name it Park. I could give it a longer name, my community park, and I hit OK. And that creates it as an individual community of interest. Now that I have that community of interest, there's a few cool things I can do with it. One is I could email it to anybody I want with a little message, and even email it with all the GIS files that go with that particular shape. I can also submit this plan, meaning that I can send this into the city and provide testimony right here to talk about my community of interest. And what does that mean? That means what is the thing that characterizes your community, makes it different than maybe others in the city. It also means what the footprint is, which you're designating as a map, but you can also describe, with other characteristics, like it includes the park, it includes this school. It also means what is your community when it comes to city governance. So maybe your community has a real concern over streetlights or potholes or safe public safety, or you walk your dog and there's no little water fountain for your dog. So there's issues maybe from your area that speak to your community. Once you put that kind of information in here, you go ahead and put your name and other address information. And even if you submit it without a legitimate phone number or email address or whatever, it's still going to be able to be submitted. And when you hit OK, it will come in as a formal submission. So let's go ahead and cancel that because we won't really submit this as a plan. But let's say that you submitted your community of interest and now you want to maybe draw district lines. I don't want to go through drawing all the districts because I don't want to create a situation where anybody believes that we're kind of preconceiving certain district lines. But if I were to go in and create another area, and I'll call that, something else, I'll create it as a new district. And I'll call that district number B or something like that. And then I were to create all of the districts for the city council in this map. Then I could also submit the same plan, submit this plan and say, this is my proposed plan for the city of Burlingame. One of the things that the city is going to need to do is balance these maps. And one way to balance these maps is to look at the total population of each of the districts that's being drawn. So as you can see, my park district was 1,500 people. This new district B was 974 people. Our total population that we're going for in these plans is more around the 5,000 range. If we go here to changes, it'll show my ideal value is 5,761. So if I actually did want to create a full districting plan, I might have to be a little bit more, I might have to be a little bit larger in trying to draw an area like this area B in order to get it to that 5,700 range. And as I'm drawing this area B, I can see it growing here in the changes menu. As I get that closer to this 5,700, you'll actually see these numbers changing. This deviation shows that I need to grow by another 667. And my deviation is 11.6%. So as I'm drawing districts, I want to get that deviation down to, 2-3% or something like that. Notice that I actually just overshot that percentage. So let's go ahead and close that menu. If I hold the control key down, and this is all in the help menu, I can unselect an area. And as I'm unselecting and doing this back and forth, I can go ahead and work this district a little bit in order to get it down to a more acceptable deviation. Now, it will be incumbent upon the city council that they achieve deviations that are no more than a total of 10%. But it's not necessarily true that you, as a member of the public, can't submit a plan that is either a partial plan or that has wider deviations. The idea really is that we want to make sure that whatever you submit is reflective of how you see the city and how you would like to see the districts be balanced. One note is that if you're watching this video prior to mid to late September, the data in this tool is still awaiting an update from the U.S. Census Department in the state. If you draw district plans now, those plans are going to be based on old population data, and they might actually work or be close to working after we get the final census data, but there's no way to really be sure. So if you were to go ahead and draw full plans and save your plans, you could then come back and make modifications in the future to make sure that they're properly balanced. Again, I now have drawn this District B. It says that its deviation is 3.4%, which is probably pretty good for a district. I can go in and see all of my districts here in order to see what their population is, and even see population data for the ethnicity of the district, and look at other information such as the density of the LGBT population here, some data on renter versus homeowners, some data on income, and other factors that might go into how we want to draw districts fairly for the city of Burlingame. So this tool is available on the website. Anybody can use it. You do need to register, but the registration is just with a name and email address. And as you draw plans, it would be wonderful if you could submit those plans using the submit function. But if you also draw plans and decide not to submit, that's perfectly okay. Really what we want to do is have this be a way for people who are looking to impact the redistricting, can draw lines themselves and not just leave this to the city council to draw lines, but really let the public take the lead. The line drawing process will continue through mid-September into October, where we'll have lots of opportunities for the public to participate online and in person, drawing paper maps. The city's done an excellent job of outreach, getting information from people who are submitting maps on paper and also filling out community of interest forms. Any maps that are submitted will be analyzed and provided to the city in order to be incorporated into the draft plans that they create going forward. And there will never be a real cutoff to this process as long as the process is ongoing, and as long as the city is still considering what their final drafts will be. There will be opportunities for public engagement at the public hearings through paper, online, or email submissions. So that is the basic tool. In the coming days, we will have a video training on this tool as well that'll cover each of the items that I covered and potentially go into a little bit more detail. But if we have any questions, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, I want to make sure that Megan, anybody else have any questions or things that they want me to cover, I can come back to this tool.
Yeah, it looks like we got one question in the chat. Where is it? Blacking out on me. Let's see.
Yeah, so the 10% deviation figure comes from state law. So the Fair Maps Act requires that the largest district to the smallest district be within 10%. That means that one district could be underpopulated by 5%, another district could be overpopulated by 5%. That deviation could also be that you have, a few districts that are overpopulated by 6 or 7, as long as the other districts aren't underpopulated by 3 or more. So it's a total range of deviation. That will allow the city to ensure that other factors can be considered, whether it's keeping neighborhoods together, not having districts that, jump across the freeway for no reason, other things that might come into play with regards to certain communities of interest. So the 10% deviation is a national norm, and it's actually state law in California.
And then it looks like we have a question from Lily, so I'm gonna allow her to ask her question.
Hi, my question is, okay, first of all, I'm not involved in politics. I'm a medical researcher.
Great.
However, I've worked with artificial intelligence and I've worked with medical algorithms. And some of the research that I'm not directly involved with, but my colleagues are involved with, what we do is we set parameters. So for example, if you're trying to predict, whether someone has a disease, you can get a computer, an algorithm to figure out what characteristics or lab tests or physical exam findings would get you close to helping to diagnose someone. Now you can manipulate that algorithm, or you can take the algorithm and you can decide, hey, that doesn't make sense, and throw it out. What I'm wondering is are there any programs, companies, algorithms out there that can help you say, okay, we're going to set the population at this range. We want a certain distribution of income or businesses or whatever for these districts, and have an agnostic district, even several suggestions of the way districts can be drawn.
Yes, I think it's an excellent question. One of our vendors, well, first, two things. We actually do have the capability at Redistricting Partners to do what's called ensemble analysis, where you take algorithms and draw district lines, and you can draw 10,000 plans in minutes in order to do analysis. There's also a great researcher who's one of our vendors, Moon Duchin at Tufts University. She runs a lab called the MGGG lab out of Tufts University. I'd suggest that you look at their information. They have a ton of information on using algorithms within the redistricting context. The one catch is if you talk to Moon Duchin or other researchers, they believe, and I think we're of the same mindset, that these kind of algorithms are excellent for doing macro level analysis, not so much for drawing individual plans. And part of it is what you mentioned earlier, which is that if you put all the power in the hands of algorithms, you're essentially putting that power in the hands of computer scientists who are setting up those weights and measures and determining what factors will be favored or over others. You're also taking out some of the subjective human elements of redistricting, which really is what we want to try to get from the community and what the city has been doing their outreach for, which is having members of the community think about their own spatial community characteristics, think about how district lines can be drawn to empower them politically and through civic engagement, and utilize those in addition to kind of the hard science, the mathy kind of part of redistricting. So it is an emerging and really exciting field of using tools like algorithms to draw districts. But I think pretty universally within the space of kind of that math and geometry and redistricting is a belief that work has a specific place. And its place is more about drawing maps to create macro level analysis of redistricting plans. And we at Redistricting Partners do a lot of that work in California and around the country. It's very exciting work, but it also isn't necessarily something that people have figured out how to, equitably use that in the drawing of individual district plans that would be used as a final redistricting plan. But it's an excellent question.
Great. Do we have any other questions from anyone? I'll give you guys a second. If not, while we're waiting to see if a question comes in, I just want to remind everyone that the tool is online. And if you prefer the paper version, we do have at the library, there will always be the map available there for anyone to draw on it. And we're doing about 2 to 3 events a week. If you can just follow us along on Twitter, you'll find out where we're going to be so that we can give you plenty of chances to draw what you think the line should be. And we haven't gotten any more questions in. So with that, thank you, Paul, for giving us some time and showing us how to use the mapping tool.
Really excited. And again, like we were saying earlier, the work that your city's doing to do that outreach in person, paper maps, plus having the online tool is really extraordinary. So thank you very much for having us be involved.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
Good night.